Hey everyone, this is Kat for the Wisteria Witches. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but I've got my air conditioner going, so there may be some background noise, but I'm not turning it off because it is too hot to possibly even consider it. But anyway, without any further ado, today I wanted to talk about another very famous Chicagoland legend and ghost story, and that is the case of H.H. Holmes and the Murder Castle. For those of you who may not necessarily have heard of that name or that story, you may have heard of I think it was a New York Times bestseller, the book The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. And the reason why I became interested in this case again is because I just found out that a film based on that book is in development currently, with rumors of Leonardo DiCaprio playing H.H. Holmes. So I started doing some new research, and I found some very interesting things that I didn't know from the first times that I had heard about this particular case. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, H.H. Holmes is credited as being the United States' first serial killer. And I'm not going to get too in-depth about his story, but just briefly, for anyone who doesn't know, he was basically a pharmacist, or what at that time would have been called a druggist, during the last part of the 19th century. And he moved around a lot. He was a con artist who frequently took part in insurance fraud. How he got started was through his work and through his schooling. He was able to steal the cadavers that were being used to study on, and he would take out insurance policies on people that didn't exist, then stage these horrible accidents with these cadavers and identify the body and collect the insurance policy. So that's how he first really got his start. Then it really snowballed from there. He started actually killing people to collect insurance money. He started a series of very strange relationships. He married several different women, and then would disappear and move. Just all kinds of craziness. And then finally he settled in Chicago and bought this very large building, which he intended to make into a hotel. Now, the reason why this building is so famous, and this is probably among the most famous parts of the story, is because the Murder Castle is called such because, first of all, it was a large building. It was meant to be a hotel, obviously. It's of some size. But also, when he renovated it, he kept hiring and firing architects and contractors and building crews, and so there was nobody there that was there for any length of time. It was maybe a week's worth of work, and then they would be gone. So nobody except for Holmes had the true floor plan for this building. And there was all kinds of really crazy, awful things that were put into this house, including pipes that ran through the house to gas people that were in some of the rooms. There was some sort of an acid vat in the basement, I think. There was a large incinerator. There was all kinds of grisly things. There were also strange things like stairways that led to nothing, and those kind of bizarre sort of design things that didn't make any sense, but they were designed to confuse people. So this all came to a head at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. This is a huge event. Lots of people came to Chicago to take part, and obviously the out-of-towners needed somewhere to stay. And so young women, particularly, who came to the city to see the World's Fair, before the time of cell phones and really a sense of being careful when you're on your own in that sort of scenario, a lot of the women who stayed at his hotel, all of them, went missing, and things did not end well for them. So, over the next couple of years following the World's Fair, a detective caught on to what was happening, realized that there were all these disappearances that centered around H.H. Holmes, and started tracking him because he had left Chicago. And so he followed him all over the place and finally caught up with him, brought him to justice. Holmes was then hung in 1896. Now, what I wanted to specifically talk about, now that I've babbled on and told the whole story pretty much, is what I found out about the alleged curse of H.H. Holmes. Now, what that entails was, after his death, all of the mayhem that followed, tons of people that were involved in his case. Now, there were lots of people who died of strange reasons. There were some people that killed themselves out of nowhere. And I have a whole list of folks who died or other such calamity befell them. A coroner who was a major witness in the case, he died very unexpectedly from blood poisoning. The head coroner became suddenly ill and died. The trial judge as well. The superintendent of the prison where Holmes was in captivity killed himself. The detective who brought him to justice almost died, but luckily pulled through, and then went on to live a normal, length of time, and is obviously now dead, but he almost died shortly after Holmes was executed. One of the insurance offices that he swindled burnt down, and the only things that allegedly did not burn was a framed copy of Holmes's arrest warrant and 2 pictures of him. One of the priests who prayed with him before his execution, was found dead out of nowhere, as well as a jury foreman and the caretaker of the murder castle, who I believe killed himself. So there was nobody left who knew anything about this house. It was this horrific place that the police, were still trying to investigate and get to the bottom of exactly everything that went on there. And then that also burnt to the ground, which is why I didn't do a field trip of this, because A of all, it's not there anymore. It's just apartment buildings, and B of all, frankly, that area is no longer the nicest neighborhood, so I don't really want to go there anyway. But, yeah, so that is the story, and I just think it's really interesting the way these sorts of things happen, and it kind of reminded me of the alleged curse that surrounded, what was that movie? Poltergeist, where all kinds of goofy things supposedly happened, and it does sort of make you wonder if it was a coincidence or not. But H.H. Holmes did claim to be not possessed by the devil, but claimed to have evil within him, and that the devil walked with him throughout his entire life. And he was obviously coming from a Christian perspective on that one. Although I don't think he would be counted as a good Christian, hardly. But he had that sort of paradigm in his mind, and he was raised that way. But anyway, it was just a very interesting series of events, and that really isn't something that I recall being covered in any of the things that I had seen up until recently about this. And I'm going to link in the description bar the link for the book, Devil in the White City, as well as the information for the movie that's in development. And there's a documentary on Netflix, and there might also be another documentary on YouTube, but I don't know if that's still up anymore. But I will put all of those links if you want to find out more of the details. There's a lot there that I didn't get into in terms of some of the craziness while he was on the run, and I could probably talk about it for a half an hour, but ain't nobody got time for that. So, that's the name of that tune. Please let me know if you guys have any questions or any insights about this particular legend. I think it's really kind of fascinating and horrific, obviously, but just it's an interesting story nonetheless. So that's it for me today, and I hope you all are doing well, and I will be talking to you next time. Bye.